20. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed at home. "Lord," Martha said to Jesus, "if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But I know that even now God will give you whatever you ask." And Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha answered, "I know he'll rise again in the resurrection at the last day." But Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. Do you believe this?" "Yes, Lord," she replied. "I believe that you're the Messiah, the Son of God who is to come into the world." After she had said this, she went back and called her sister Mary aside. "The teacher's here," she said, "and he's asking for you." When Mary heard this, she got up quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet entered the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. And when the Jews had been with Mary in the house, comforting her, they noticed how quickly she got up and went out, and so they followed her, supposing she was going to the tomb to mourn there. When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had just been here, my brother wouldn't have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. "Where have you laid him?" he asked. "Come and see, Lord," they replied, and Jesus wept. And then Jesus does something interesting. And so they take him to the tomb, and he does something that I think is highly unusual. Not sure that it's ever been done before. Not sure why anybody would ever want this done before. But he says, "Take away that tomb," right? Take away that big stone from the tomb. Now, I think this is really super interesting. If we were to simply take our Bibles and start going 2 or 3 pages, we would find out that something very similar is going to be happening to Jesus. Something very similar that's just happening to Lazarus right here. Jesus is going to die just like Lazarus. Jesus is going to be put in a tomb just like Lazarus. And in just a few days, in a few weeks, Jesus is going to be raised from that tomb. Now, I think Jesus knows all of this. Jesus knows what's going to happen. In fact, if you dive into the book of John especially, Jesus says a lot of this phrase, "My time is not yet come. My time is not yet come." That unique phrase says simply is, it's not time to reveal everything that I'm supposed to do, but eventually in the book of John he says, "All right, now's the time. Now's the time. I want everybody to know who I am, what I'm about, and what I'm going to do." Jesus knows he's going to the cross. And so, church, I can't help but think that Jesus is thinking about that right here. He's doing the exact same thing that Lazarus is doing. And so I can't help but think that this is going through his mind. And I wonder if Jesus is in this moment really experiencing some very deep emotions and some deep feelings right here. There's a couple of objections going on. They go ahead and they remove the stone. Jesus calls Lazarus to come out, and this mummy appears, right? And it's Lazarus, and he's come out alive. And Jesus says, "Tell them to loose the wrappings and let him go." Church, this is the big truth in the text, right here. This is how Jesus deals with dead things. And so I do not want us to hurry past this, right? I want us to dig just a little bit deeper. For some of you, you've heard this story before. And so I'm asking you to go in your hearts just a little bit deeper and think about the symbolism of this text. For some of you, it's the first time you've ever heard it. There's a lot going on here, right? A lot of deeper things. And so I'm asking us to take our time right here and to go a little bit deeper on the inside of our hearts. Do you have dead things in your life? Do you have some dead things in your life that you need to be loosed and let go? Again, church, let's not hurry through this. That's not what this moment is about. Right? I think if we're going to fully and as deeply as Jesus wants us to go, I think we need to understand a truth here. We need to know that there are some things that we can loose, and there are some things that only Jesus can loose. I think there's definitely some things that we can loose. There's some things that we do. I call it my part. I can confess. I can repent, if that's what these dead things are. My mind keeps going back to Romans chapter 12, where it says that we offer our lives as living sacrifices. That's what I do. Church, that's our part, right? We renew our minds. We change our lives, right? There's some things that I need to let loose, and then there's some things that only Jesus can let loose. Shame, guilt, fear, and sin. Only Jesus can do that. And so let's take just a few more minutes and let's look at this story a little more closely, okay? We notice in your Sunday handout that Jesus cries about dead things. Now, this is really, really interesting. I'm really intrigued by this. Jesus cries out loud in front of everybody. When was the last time you did that, right? Nobody wants to do that, right? We cover our faces. We go in other rooms to cry out loud. We don't want to do this. In fact, we'll do most things to avoid crying out loud in public. But Jesus doesn't do this. Oh, I think this is good, church. I think this is deep here. I think this is especially interesting when you realize all the things that Jesus saw and all the things that Jesus did. Did you know that he raises other people from the dead? He doesn't cry then. He feeds the 5,000. He doesn't cry then. He saw hundreds of people be baptized. He doesn't cry then. He cries here. Right? We'll talk about that here in just a moment. You notice here in our story that both Mary and Martha say the same thing. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And there's a response to this. Jesus has this conversation with Martha when she says it. And Martha ends up revealing something about her faith. Look at what she says in verse 27. Lord, I believe that you're the Messiah who is to come into the world. Church, we talked about this, I think, a couple of months ago. This is the good confession right here. Right? This is when Jesus asks his apostles, who do people say that I am? Peter jumps up eagerly and says, you're the Christ. You're the Son of the living God. Marley was baptized here Wednesday night. Marley confessed, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Great confession.